Hello and welcome to Picture Astrology. In this video, we will talk about transit of Sun in the sign of Pisces, which is going to happen on March 14, and Sun will remain here for almost up to April 14. First of all, few words about the high importance which Vedic astrologers have always put in regards to the Sun's transit into any new sign. And Sun transits are specially known as Sankranti in Vedic astrology. So in a year, there are 12 Sankrantis, and this word literally means moving into a new phase, or it is also defined as transiting into a new picture. So some of the transits like Sun moving into Capricorn, that is more synonymous in Vedic culture with this word Sankranti, but all these 12 transits, all these 12 transition of Sun are known by the name of the sign in which Sun is going to transit. So this one is going to be Pisces Sankranti or Mean Sankranti. And this particular day of transit is considered to have great impact on many things like weather patterns or how the socio-political environment will shape up during that month, and many other things of mundane interest. And in fact, there are astrology practices where astrologers literally just observe the climate change or the minor things of the weather, like flow of the air, the movement of air, the temperature changes, especially during this particular day of transit of Sun. And just based on that, they are able to gather very important signs regarding how a lot of mundane aspects, as I said, weather patterns, socio-political environment, etc. will be during that month. However, this video is more concerned about individual horoscopes and how the 12 signs are going to be impacted, but I thought it will be pertinent to share the high importance which Sun transit enjoy in Vedic astrology. And another very significant thing about this day of Sun transit is that any spiritual or religious or yogic practice which you do on this day is considered to be especially more fruitful. This is the typical Vedic astrology view, and I will soon make a dedicated video about this aspect of astrology, which really talks about doing certain things on certain specific times and what kind of effect and how and why those effects are felt. But for now, on the day of March 14, because in the eastern countries, the Sun transit, like in India, it will happen at 6 p.m. on March 14, and in the western countries, say like in US, early morning on March 14. So on the day of March 14, if you follow any practice or even simple things like taking a shower, bathing, just simply going out in sunshine is considered to be very, very auspicious. So now let's move on to the effect of this transit on all the 12 signs. So for the Aries ascendant or Aries moon sign, this will be the position of planets at the time of Sun's transit. And Sun here would be moving from 11th house of Aquarius to the 12th house of Pisces. So effectively for Aries folks, Sun is moving into the 12th house, and that could be a tricky position. However, the important thing to note is the Lord of Sun will be in the Pisces sign, which is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter will be placed in the 10th house at the time of transit. So this actually indicates some kind of positive activity in the work or professional front, which includes some or the other kind of travel, which is very likely during this month. And as I said, that this could be a little tricky transition, because with some of these developments which are very likely to be good and positive development in the professional front. The aspect of Sun would be on the 6th house, on which Jupiter will also be aspecting simultaneously. So this is an indication of some kind of opposition in the work life also. Now the good thing will be that the hurdles you will face, or from the corners and people you will face, will most likely not come out in open. Some or other kind of hidden obstacles, people not really coming out in open and opposing it, which is a good thing. And you need to be very tactful when you face this situation. See, Jupiter's aspect is also on the 6th house, which kind of shows similar situation, but Jupiter is in the 10th house, it is strong. And the thing is that Mars right now, which is the Lord of Aries, is with Rahu. So that's why I am putting a lot of attention on the word tactfully handle this situation. You should not lose your patience, especially when it comes to speech. Smartly handle the situation and you will be able to easily overcome any of the opposition you face. And your tactful handling, which will be probably more required around the time of April 5 to April 14, because that is the time around which Jupiter will also move towards your 11th house. So that in some ways will provide better opportunities, no doubt, but at the same time can also make you, lose your cool with other people, especially in this tricky situation of the work life. But even in that case, the good placement of 10th house Saturn and other areas of this horoscope indicates that the need is to be very tactful, especially during this time period. This moment of Sun is also very likely to give you some alone time of yourself. That alone time could be well spent in or as opportunity for spiritual practice. People who are into spirituality or in yoga or etc. things, they will get opportunity to do some courses, etc. And otherwise the business travel which I indicated earlier can give you time which you spend away from your family members, and some good contemplation can be done during that time. In terms of health issues, eyes, and if you are susceptible to any bone injury or any bone kind of issues which you have faced in past, then please be careful about those, especially between 5th to 15th April. Now moving on to the Taurus sign. So for Taurus sign, Sun is moving from the 10th house of Aquarius to the 11th house of Pisces. And with this transit, many things actually are coming together very nicely for the Taurus natives. The transit of Sun in the 11th house can provide many great new opportunities both in business and work front. It is good time for dealing in real estate, landed property, buying or selling, or increasing the source of income, as well as finding new sources of income. So generally a very encouraging sign for Taurus natives. But there is one peculiarity with this transit of Sun. Very soon, in just 3-4 days after Sun moves to the sign of Pisces, the Lord of Taurus, which is Venus will also move to the Pisces sign. Now Pisces is the exaltation sign of Venus. So that is another beneficial transit for Taurus natives. However, for most parts, in fact for the entire duration of Sun transit in this Pisces sign, Sun and Venus, they will be very, very close to each other. So there will be varying degrees of combustion of Venus during this time. So one thing which Taurus natives should really take care about is their health during this period. You could see a little bit of up and down in health during this time. So get back to your fitness regime. If you do yoga or exercise, whatever is your thing, make sure you at least follow during this month. Try and have healthy food at the right time, because food and health habits can get disturbed during this time, and that can lead to some of the health hazards. So be careful about it. But as I said, Venus, although combust, will be in the exaltation sign for most part. So it can be a little up and down kind of ride this month as far as health is concerned. But especially April 5th to April 15 time of this transit, especially for food related stuff, because during that time Jupiter will go 12th from these two planets, and at that same time Mars will be more into the second house of food. So food and health habits especially to be taken care of during this 10-day period. But as I said, in most other cases this transit is going to be very favorable. And I forgot to mention that another area apart from your own health, mother's health needs to be taken care of also during this time. But overall, a welcome transit for Taurus natives. Now moving on to the lovely Gemini sign. For the Gemini sign, Sun is moving from the 9th house of Aquarius to the 10th house in Pisces. And actually many things can be said about this transition. It is great in many respects, especially related to government work. If you are in business related to contracts from government, it is also very good for educational purposes, and it will open up new areas of opportunities for Gemini's people who have been for past few time feeling a little bit constrained because of Jupiter Saturn's position in their 8th house. So given the current time in which Jupiter and Saturn are in the sign of Saturn in the 8th house, Sun coming out of a Saturnian sign, Aquarius, and moving into Pisces and in the 10th house is, as I said, a welcome change for Gemini folks. But as I said, we are trying to look at holistically how this transit is going to impact. So although 10th house Sun for Gemini can open that window of opportunity, which I said just now, that can give some relief into that constraints which Jupiter and Saturn have been imposing on Gemini. But as you see, the placement of Mars and Rahu in the 12th, at least at the time being, Jupiter still in the 8th with Saturn, and Venus, although right now in the 9th house, in just 4 or 5 days Venus also moving into the 10th. So the first thing which Gemini folks need to look after is that in this window of opportunity you should not get restless, because Sun in the 10th can suddenly give you that freedom and that momentum, or push rather, that you suddenly want to do many things. Or it might give you just one opportunity and you really want to just pounce on it. But given the current transits, it is highly recommended that you do pause for a moment, think through it, and then act. Remember, I'm not talking about procrastinating things. I'm not talking about delaying things. All I'm talking about is the fact that Sun is in the 10th, Mars with Rahu is in the 12th, and Jupiter Saturn in this, at least in the beginning 20 days of this transit, will remain in the 8th house. So don't do anything in overexcitement when this transit of Sun happens here. And second very important thing is, look after your expenses. Both Sun in this place as well as Mars right at there in the 12th house can make you spend a lot of money in potentially not really required areas. See, spending money in areas which are needed is good, But impulse buying, impulsively spending on things which are not really needed is not quite so. And the placement of Sun here, given the other positions of the planets, shows opportunities of impulse expenditure. So please be little careful about that. So these two are probably the only areas which, if you properly take care of, then this transit of Saturn in this 10th house for this 1 month can really set the stage for you for the upcoming transits of Jupiter and Saturn, which are going to be much more helpful. So overall, it's a very good window of opportunity. Just be careful about these two aspects. Moving on to the Cancer sign. So for the Cancer ascendant or moon sign, Sun is moving from the 8th house to the 9th house of Pisces. And at the time of transit, Moon, which is the lord of Cancer sign, will also be present in the 9th house itself. And while all this happens, the lord of Sun and Moon both, Jupiter, will be in the 7th house, aspecting the ascendant itself. So these confluence of planets actually make this a very positive transit for Cancer ascendant. You will be able to see positive influence, positive development in work front, professional life, and also overcome easily any obstacle or opposition in the workplace, if at all. However, with the aspect of Saturn still on Sun, and after April 5, Jupiter is actually going to move to the 8th house. So especially during this time, some or the other minor issue, remember, minor issue with government authorities or any such regulatory bodies are possible. But that can be, simple speeding ticket, fines, etc. Especially, as I said, around or after 5th of April, especially because Jupiter will be moving to the 8th house and Mars will slowly move to the 12th. So some monetary fines are possible, but they are likely to be really minor and something which you could either avoid or get over easily if faced with that situation. But especially in the early part, that is before April 5th, as Venus also joins Sun in the 9th house, you can get a lot of help from friends. You will not only get opportunities to spend good time with friends and families, but also some good opportunities through their connections is possible during this time. And some of those opportunities could be like the seeds of which can be found in this time, but they would eventually materialize when Jupiter goes back in retro motion into the Capricorn sign. So be on the lookout, remain attentive and alert, which this transit of Sun will anyways make you. It helps in growing your social sphere, growing your recognition and links with friends and other influential people, and those influences can be very helpful not just in the immediate term but also in the near future, like 6 to 8 months from now on. So a welcome transit for Cancer natives. Now moving on to the royal sign of Leo, and for the Leo folks, Sun's transit is even more special because Sun is the lord of Leo sign itself. So the movement of Sun has a greater degree of impact on Leo horoscopes. And Saturn's movement from Aquarius to Pisces sign will see Sun moving into the 8th house for Leo horoscope. And in the beginning, at least up to the April 5th time, the lord of Sun, in this case lord of the Pisces sign Jupiter, would remain in the 6th house with Saturn. And while this is happening, we have Mars and Rahu in the 10th. So this has few implications. First of all, work and professional life can take a lot of your time. and due to that you might start feeling a little bit fatigued. You might already be, because of Jupiter-Saturn's effect in the 6th house can easily give you too much on your plate. But with Sun joining into the 8th house and with aspect of Saturn, depending on your horoscope, either already you might have started feeling the effect, because the transit effects can occur 2-3 days in advance as well. But body fatigue and little bit tiredness is common in such scenario. However, great thing is Venus is going to join Sun in its exaltation sign very soon. And while that is going to happen, Mars will still remain here in the 10th, and Jupiter eventually after April 5th will move to the 7th. So what it shows is, it shows some positive development on the professional and work front as well. This could mean either a new opportunity, either a new project, and also winning over opponents or enemies at workplace. Some or the other kind of relief which could be even sudden or unexpected. That is likely for the Leo native. So there are definite positives of Sun's movement in the 8th house when you look at the transits in holistic manner. One important thing though, which I just want to point out, for Leo natives, especially with all these different combinations occurring in the 8th, with Venus exalted, Sun joining that, or Venus joining Sun in Pisces. So one caveat is, if you drink alcohol in any shape or form, then just be little careful with alcohol consumption, especially up to April 5th, because the indications are that if you drink alcohol, then a little too much of that can lead to some unpleasant situations. But as I said, this is a minor indication, and if you are not into it at all, then you don't need to obviously worry at all. But if you do even take such drinks, then just be little careful up to April 5th. Now coming to the Virgo sign, and for the Virgo natives, Sun is moving from the 6th house of Aquarius to the 7th house of Pisces. And from here, Sun will have direct aspect on the ascendant itself. And while this transit happens, the Lord of Sun, Jupiter, which in this case because of Pisces sign, will be placed in the 5th house. So a couple of important things comes out from this transits. So first of all, this is a very good indicator for the professional and work life. Sun coming into the 7th and having a direct aspect on the ascendant, while Jupiter remaining in the 5th. What it shows is that if you are in business or in professional life also, some creative use of law or rules or regulations can give you some good gains. And as they say, that bend the rule as much as you can, but never break the rule. So it is potentially that kind of situation where through some imaginative or creative ways, which are very likely to be around the legal matters or the regulatory bodies or regulations, some work around that area can give you either some opportunity to progress or some kind of monetary gains. And this transit with the few other placements at the time are also good for business partnership. When it comes to businesses and business partnerships, this can be relatively helpful. However, for the personal partnership, that is for your spouse and for your partners, you need to be little careful on couple of fronts. First of all, health of your partner could be a concern, and that especially after April 5th, because that will be the time when Jupiter will move into the 6th house from the Sun. So health of your partner needs to be taken care of. Although the same transit of Jupiter along with Sun here can give you some newer opportunity in social circle, or in put you into a new work area, which is good. But as far as health is concerned, you need to be a little bit careful. Secondly, for variety of reasons, it can give some minor stress in relationships, especially as I said after April 5th, because Jupiter will come into the 6th house. It could be due to the extra efforts you have to put in your work life, a little bit frustration of the professional life, or hectic lifestyle often comes out on people who are closest to you. So especially between April 5th to April 15 would be more so that you should be a little bit more patient and try to give more time to your spouse. Now coming to the Libra sign. So for the Libra folks, Sun is moving from the 5th house of Aquarius to the 6th house in Pisces now. And for Libra natives, Sun rules Leo, which is the 11th house. And Sun will have a direct aspect on 12th. While this is happening, we also will be having Mars and Rahu in the 8th house, with Jupiter for most part in the 4th. So when you combine these, a few very important observations come to the fore. Very first thing folks is, please take care of your digestion and food habits during this time, especially because soon around March 19th or 20th, Venus will also join Sun in the 6th house, and Venus for Libra native is very important planet because it is the lord of Libra sign. So Venus coming to the 6th house, it will be exalted because it will be in the sign of Pisces, which is a good thing, but it will be very close to Sun for almost the entirety of its stay in this sign of Pisces. So this, coupled with Mars and Rahu in the 8th, especially calls for restraints towards food habits and digestive disorders, especially if you are already prone to something. Then please take due precautions about those in this period. This also gives an interesting observation about the opposition or enemies or obstacles in your way. So first of all, Sun here with exalted Jupiter, rather exalted Venus, is the sign that you might face some enemies and obstacles, but you are going to overcome them. So that is good. And also transit of Sun here shows success in any legal or law related matters, or in general any kind of trouble or problems if you were in. So it can show you overcoming that. But couple of things, again considering the other transits as well. First, even if you are winning over your enemies, do not let ego come in your mind. Okay, don't try to rub it in your enemies. Okay, you are defeating them, that's good enough. Don't be unnecessarily ruthless towards them, because Sun here can give that tendency. And what happens with this is you end up kind of wasting your own time unnecessarily, especially because Sun is aspecting 12th house. So unnecessary wastage of time as well as money should be avoided, and especially so when it is unnecessarily and more towards satisfying ego. So just this thing you need to take care of, along with the food habits, as far as high level message of this transit of Sun is concerned. Now moving on to the Scorpio sign. And for Scorpio natives, Sun is moving from the 4th house where Aquarius sign was present into the 5th house of Pisces. And from here Sun will have a direct aspect on the 11th house. And at the same time, Lord of Pisces sign Jupiter currently being placed in the 3rd house with Saturn, and after April 5th, Jupiter will be moving to the 4th house. So there are a couple of things which these transits indicate, and we will only talk about some of the important aspects of these transits along with the current planetary positions. First of all, this sun here or the transit here indicates that you might need to spend some time with your kids. They might need your help in either deciding things about their education or just life in general. So, spending time with your kids or children, especially because it's the transit of Sun in this position, with Jupiter being in the 3rd and then soon after April 5th in the 4th, it could especially be related to your Sun. And if there are more than one Sun, then the eldest of the Sun might need some help with you. So this is a very good time for carrying out your duties as a father or as a mother. Second important thing which comes out of especially because of the Sun's transit here and its aspect on the 11th house is that you might get opportunities for investment, or especially investment in share market and other such instruments. And as it happens, some of them may seem very lucrative or very appealing and so on. But what this transit indicates is this is an okay time for investment. Even if something comes or seems to be really lucrative, please put your due research and thought process before making the investment, because as I said, it's the transits here shows a very shiny opportunity for investment coming in, but that actually being okay. I'm not saying it's going to be bad or it's going to be good. It's just normal time. It's just that first time when you look at it, you might feel like, oh wow, it's really lucrative, but that doesn't mean that you do not do your due diligence before investment. So I think for Scorpio natives, this is probably the two biggest message for the Sun's transit in Pisces. Moving on to the sign of Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius, Sun will be moving from 3rd house where Aquarius sign is placed to the 4th house of Pisces. And while this transit happens, the Lord of Sagittarius, which is the Jupiter, will be placed in the 2nd house in Capricorn sign along with Saturn, and Jupiter is going to make a transit to Aquarius on April 5th. So primarily because Jupiter is the Lord of Sagittarius ascendant, Sagittarius folks can actually see two different flavors of this Sun transit, especially in terms of their health. We'll come to that just in a bit, but in general the transit of Sun in the 4th house is a very good indicator for multiple things, including pursuit of any kind of educational or learning, or people who are into knowledge business, or folks whose profession primarily relies on knowledge base. For them, this is a very good transition, especially because Sun will also have direct aspect on the 10th house, and for Sagittarius folks, Sun is actually the Lord of 9th because Leo is placed in this house. So folks in the field of education, or even if your profession requires information sharing or knowledge based industries, for them it will be a very good sign. But after April 5th, health wise you might feel a little strained or fatigued, because see, suddenly what will happen is Jupiter, Lord of the 1st house, will move to the 3rd house, which you see will have a little bit of a cascading effect, because Lord of Sun will be 12th from itself, and then Lord of Jupiter, Saturn, will again become 12th from itself. So it's a placement which can show some travel which could be due to some necessity rather than travel for fun. So some say mandatory travel, small mandatory travels might be on cards, which can make you feel a little tired. So taking care of your health at this point, especially remaining nicely hydrated, and some general precautions will definitely help. And because of all these, you might have to either stay away from family members or home for some time, and few such minor issues related to home can be seen. But overall, a good transition for Sagittarius folks also, because these issues are likely to happen mostly between April 5th to April 14, and after that Sun will definitely move into a much exalted position along with other planetary changes also, which will definitely ease out the situation. Now moving on to Capricorn sign. So for the Capricorn sign, Leo, which is ruled by Sun, falls in the 8th house, and this Sun now will be moving from 2nd house of Aquarius to the 3rd house where Pisces sign is posited. So in some ways, this is the Lord of 8th house will be going into a position which is 8th from 8th. So not the rule of Bhavat Bhavan to be discussed here, but it's just one such position. And the Lord of Sun, which is Jupiter in this case, because Sun will be in Pisces sign, is in the 1st house itself, along with Saturn, which is the Lord of Capricorn. So planetary alignment for Capricorn ascendants is actually coming to a very favorable stage. And this transit of Sun here, with its aspect on the 9th, has the potential to give you good success in your endeavors. Traveling and business as well as fun travel could be very, very beneficial. You could definitely gain some good name in your workplace if you are in any kind of writing or knowledge based industry. Then it's a very good time for professional success. However, one very important message with this planetary position right now is that you should try to pick your battles very, very wisely. It's a very common phrase which literally means that, see, you can potentially win 10 battles, or you can potentially fight 10 battles and win all of them at a time. But you actually don't have to. You should try and prioritize your things and only fight the battles which really mean something to you. Don't just fight battles, or don't just get involved in matters because you can. Because this placement of Sun here, with the other planetary positions, especially Jupiter in the 1st house along with the Lord of Ascendant here, can make you, kind of very excited, and you could lose your focus. And as I said, Sun placement here, direct aspecting 9th house, is actually a very good time which should not be wasted on unnecessary things. If you are winning, you should win in matters which are really important to you. So prioritize and then fight those battles, because you are very likely to win those. So that's one of the main message of this transit of Sun. Otherwise, this is a good transit, especially after April 5th. Some good monetary gains are also possible, and the effort which you take now, the initiatives which you might take in the right direction when you pick your battles wisely, can give you good benefits and returns, both in very near or immediate terms as well as in medium terms. So make good use of this time. Now coming on to the Aquarius sign. So for Aquarius, Sun moving to Pisces will be the transit into the 2nd house. And while this happens, the Lord of Sun in this case, which is the Pisces sign Jupiter, would be placed in the 12th house along with Saturn. So money wise, in terms of monetary and wealth things, this transit of Sun can be seen actually in two parts. First one, which is April 5th or prior to April 5th, and that is the time where any new inflow of money is likely to find an outflow opportunity also, meaning the monetary gains opportunities will also give opportunities of expenditure. But after April 5th, especially because Jupiter will move to the first house, the monetary situation, the inflow situation will be much better than this balance which you are likely to get in the earlier days, that is prior to April 5th. So initially monetary wise it is a mixed bag. After that the situation is going to improve. Second thing about health, eye trouble, especially the right eye. If you have any issue with eyes in general, right eye in particular, and also teeth, these two troubles are to be duly taken care of in this time. And a peculiar thing is, if in your chart if Mars is in aspect with Saturn or Mars aspects Saturn in some ways, then bone related issues, if you have any prior condition, then they can resurface also. So be little bit careful. And one more very important thing with this transit of Sun, and that is applicable especially prior to April 5th, because at that time Saturn and Jupiter both will be in the 12th house, is that you need to be careful about how you speak and your speech in general, because Sun in the second house along with Mars Rahu in the 4th, while other planetary combinations like Saturn Jupiter in the 12th can easily cause some unpleasant situations due to imprudent speech or imprudent word choices. So try to just keep your patience, even if you are provoked or somebody deliberately tries to incite you. Still, if you just keep your calmness intact, this transit of Sun will pay good dividends. And now to the Pisces sign. So for the Pisces horoscope, Sun will move from Aquarius, which is in the 12th, to the first house, which is the Pisces sign itself. And the Lord of Pisces, which is Jupiter, at the time of transit will be placed in the debilitation sign, but in the 11th house along with Saturn. And these planetary combinations have 3-4 very important message for Pisces people. First of all, health. Health needs to be taken care of, especially after April 5 and between April 5 to April 13 or 14, because that will be the time when Jupiter will also suddenly go 12th from this Sun. So if you have any prior conditions related to, say, headache or eye trouble in particular, so headaches and eye trouble are particularly likely during this time. So number one, that needs to be carefully looked at, because Sun here is Lord of 6th house and it is aspected by Saturn. Therefore, some precautions will be very helpful. Second, this is actually a good time for success in any legal issue or legal trouble, if you are facing any or if you're going through any. So legal issues, law related issues, solving tax related problems, that's, for all those matters, very good time. For professional front, for job and work front, this transit along with the planetary combination currently present definitely shows some or the other travel. Even long distance travel are possible with the formations kind of coming up, and those will give good, positive, fruitful results. The only caveat which you need to be careful about is that during the travel, during the commute, you should be sort of more careful, because or situations like flight delays, flight cancellations, maybe not because of your own fault, but other funny reasons, delaying things, and unpleasant journeys, they are very much possible. So the time of journey could be difficult, but the travel itself, the purpose of travel, would mostly remain unaffected because of that. But that can put unnecessary extra stress on you, so planning travel with care is very advisable during this time. So friends, this was a high level important points collection which I brought in front of you related to the sun's transit in Pisces sign, which is also known as Meen Sankranti. I hope this would be helpful for everyone. Please do like, share, subscribe and share this video. And I once again thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.